respect, right? When somebody's talking, we're gonna listen. When somebody wants to offer some kind of comment, we're gonna be respectful. We're not gonna laugh at them, okay? Alright, so who has a best friend?
The best what?
A best friend.
I do.
Who has more than one? More than one best friend?
Sarah, you're my best friend.
I'm the best friend.
Hand up.
Do you not have one best friend? I don't have a best
She just
friend.
wants to
I
know.
saw you as a good friend.
Okay.
Oh, so we're not best friends?
Oh, so we're not best
You
friends.
didn't kick
Oh, we're both so fake. I could never have a date.
You
We are friends.
can put your hand
I'll
up.
put my.
Oh.
We're hanging out right now.
That's a good point.
Alright, so we're gonna play a quick game.
Best friends, yes.
Oh,
I'm gonna show you a picture
Okay.
of somebody,
Horrible memory.
and I need somebody to tell me who the best friend is. Can everybody see? Do we need extra light?
What do you mean the best friend?
The best friend that
I'm
person.
gonna show you a person
Okay.
I wait to
in
say
the
the
picture, and I need you to tell me who their best friend is.
Oh.
Should we have a raising hand system?
Is it like the youth?
You can shout it out. That's fine.
Okay.
Are this
Oh, wait,
people
can we
us?
do
You'll see the pictures in just a second.
What do you mean by that?
Are these everybody we know?
Who you'll know them once you see the picture. Okay.
Are you sure?
You should.
Are they people in the Bible?
No. All right. You ready for the first one?
Yeah.
All right. First one.
What?
Anybody know?
Oh, I don't watch TV. This sucks.
I remember that too.
It's Boy Meets World. I know that.
Boy
one.
Meets
I
World.
don't remember her name.
Oh,
Okay.
Oh,
This is
Topanga.
Topanga. Okay. This is Corey Matthews from Boy Meets World. His best friend is Topanga.
name.
And Sean.
And Sean.
Okay. Ready for the next one? I don't know if you'll know this one either. You might.
Oh,
DJ.
No, that's Kimmy.
DJ.
DJ.
Yeah.
I should stop talking. Full House.
Or.
And Full House.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah,
I've seen all of that.
Okay.
Same.
All right. Next one.
Ron Weasley and Hermione Granger.
Okay.
That
That was easy. All right. Next one.
Buzz.
Andy.
Andy.
Buzz Lightyear.
Okay.
Michael
All
Jackson.
right. Who's here?
Kevin Hart.
That little.
Kevin Hart.
What's his name?
What's his friend?
The
Oprah.
guy who does all the talking. Like the little Spanish
Dr.
guy.
Phil.
Kevin
James Gordon.
Hart. Kevin Hart.
Okay. I'm actually thinking Justin Timberlake.
That's what I was gonna say.
Justin Timberlake.
Oh yeah. You didn't follow who says all his stuff. What? The little Spanish guy. The Spanish guy too.
Wait a second.
Carlos. Was it Carlos?
Bernie and
All right.
I don't know.
what's his
This
name?
one.
Oh,
I don't know.
Bert.
Elmo.
I know his name's Bert.
What?
but, Like he has a little orange guy with it.
This is Bert.
Bert.
I love it.
And his best
Elmo.
friend.
Piggy.
Ernie.
Ernie.
I mixed their names
Bert and
together.
Ernie.
I really never watched that.
Bert.
All right. One more.
Mike Wazowski.
No, there's two more.
Come on.
You already said that.
Scooby-Doo. I got that.
Tyler, you guys want to sit?
No.
Last one's Mike Wazowski. I saw one.
All right. And then the last one.
Mike
Mike
Wazowski.
Mike Wazowski.
Mike Wazowski.
Okay.
I thought Boo would be his best friend. He almost beat up Mike Wazowski with Boo.
Well.
See, that's what happens when women enter
And I'm with the university one. I'm with the university one. The monster
Alright.
university one.
All right. So we all have usually at least one best friend.
I had two.
I have more than
So I'm gonna
So
tell you
far,
guys.
I have more.
All right. I'm gonna tell you guys a little bit about some of my best friends from when I was growing up. We gotta go way, way back. All right. To like when I was
19.
5.
Oh.
Not the 1940s.
That's so mean.
More like the 1980s.
You're almost 100 years old,
Oh
Sarah.
my goodness. Okay.
Say
All
11.
right. So when I was 5 years old, I met my first best friend. Her name was Kim. Kim. K-I-M. Kim.
Are you still friends with her?
Am I still friends with her? Yes, I am still technically friends with her. We talk
Are you
sometimes.
close?
Are we close?
They're
No,
friends
we're
on
not that
Facebook.
friends. We're not that close. But yes, we are friends on Facebook.
It's friendships now.
It is friendships now, it seems.
Adult
No.
friendships.
So, one story I have with me and Kim. We would go over to each other's houses all the time, spend the night, do whatever friends do, gossip, listen to music, watch movies. But, so there was one summer, I was at Kim's house, and we were begging her mom to take us to McDonald's for lunch. we were seriously like standing in her kitchen, please take us to McDonald's, please take us to McDonald's. And her mom's like, all right, if you go outside, you work really, really hard, maybe we'll go to McDonald's for lunch. So we just kind of look at each other and we're like, okay. So we walk outside, we go back to her backyard, she had her garage in the backyard. So we go out there and we just kind of hang out, we didn't really do much, we just sat and talked. And so like an hour, maybe hour passes. And we slowly walk back up to the house. Like, do you think we've been out long enough? You know, we're kind of looking at each other, like, maybe. So we stop where there was the attachment for the hose on the side of the house. Like, hey, let's do this. So we turn the water on, we splash our faces with water, we come inside, and we're just like, oh my gosh, it's so hot outside. We have been playing so hard. We were so dramatic. And our mom looks at us, she's like, we can go to McDonald's for lunch, you guys deserve it. We thought we were so special and so smart. Apparently, she tells me this like 20 years later. I messaged her right before I was going to tell you this story. And she's like, you know, my dad heard us when we turned on the water. I don't think we tricked anybody. But, okay, so Kim was my best friend. We got into a little bit of trouble together. But most of the time, her mom was the secretary at our church. So like during the summer, we'd hang out at our church and just like run around in the dark and play games. But, so Katie was my other best friend growing up. We were all in Girl Scouts together. We all had the same kindergarten class. We all knew each other. So, Katie and I were more like sisters. She lived right down the street from me. And like we'd sit out on the top of our jungle gym in my backyard and we'd sing like Bon Jovi songs at the top of our lungs. We decided one summer we were going to be on Star Search. If you guys don't know what Star Search is, it's like American Idol back in the 80s. Okay. It was this big talent show. So we decided we were going to be on Star Search. So we got a kid from a couple blocks over. He was going to be our manager. And so he came over and he was going to like help us produce our routine and he was going to videotape us. We got out Michael Jackson's Smooth Criminal song. We had our costumes planned.
Wait, is that
Yeah, when he does the leaning, that song. Have you ever seen that video where he's like, they're in like this nightclub and he's wearing the white suit.
His famous lean.
And he does the lean.
The one where like he flicks the quarter and it goes right into the machine.
No.
Probably.
Oh wait.
When he walks in. Okay, that's probably the same song, yeah. Okay, so anyway, we're going to make it this big old dance routine. It never went past our first meeting. We never got past the first hour that we were going to get together, so it didn't come of anything. But, and I think I've told some of you this story before. So there was one day I was standing outside with Katie. I had a tennis ball in my hand, and I was going to act like I was going to throw it at her. It was supposed to roll right off the back of my hand. It didn't roll off the back of my hand. I flung it at her and it hit her square in the nose. And she looks at me, I swear, she got so mad at me. She started yelling at me and she went home crying.
Have you seen her since
And then I've seen her since then, yes, but I saw her the next day. We got over it and we made up.
That was my phone once. I went to pretend
Yeah.
you were across the room.
So, Katie and Kim and I were pretty good friends all through elementary school.
You two friends at the same, like, did y'all, like, hang
All
out?
three of us?
Yeah.
Not unless we were really like a Girl Scouts or something, but okay. Katie and I lived like on the same street. Like if my mom went out of town for a long weekend or something, I'd stay at their house all the time. Her dad was even my doctor growing up, so like I knew everything. They knew everything about me and I knew everything about them. In 4th grade, I started hanging out with a new girl. Her name was Rebecca. She moved in right next door to me. We were in the same class. And she and Katie weren't very good friends. So it was kind of interesting. If I wanted to hang out with Katie, I couldn't hang out with Rebecca. Or if I wanted to hang out with Rebecca, I couldn't hang out with Katie. So I was kind of trying always to get the two of them together. Never really worked out. And I always felt like if I was with Katie, I was betraying Rebecca. Or if I was with Rebecca, I was betraying Katie. And I was just, it was really just a weird, yeah, it was girl drama in like 4th grade. It was kind of crazy. Things really started changing with our friendships when we got into middle school. Katie and I were in the same, the way it worked out in middle school, we had a triad of teachers that we would rotate between in our classes. And Katie and I were in the same triad, but not in the same homeroom. And Kim was in a completely different triad, so I never got to see Kim. And Katie started really kind of being more with the popular kids. And a funny story with this, like in 6th grade, I could have been with the popular crew. I started out with the popular crew. I really did. Don't laugh, I really did.
So mean at me.
So I met this new girl. She was in my homeroom. Her name was Sandra. And she had a lot of popular friends, and she decided she wanted to be my friend. We had all of our classes together. And one day she convinced me to join the speech team with her. Do you guys have a speech team?
No.
Okay, do you know what a speech team is?
No.
Okay,
Maybe.
so what we would do together, she and I, we had a script that we had to memorize. It was like a little scene from a play. Okay, and so we would have to go to tournaments on the weekends and perform this skit, like perform these lines. And it wasn't really more about acting, it was more about how we delivered the lines. And so we would get judged and we would get scored, and then those would give us points on the speech team. And then however our team placed, then we could go to state or do whatever. So I don't know why I joined the speech team, probably just because I really wanted to be Sandra's friend. But, so she got me to join it, and I remember doing one speech tournament with her, and I remember feeling like I was really bad because I was not meant to be an actor. But so I remember doing the one tournament, and it was maybe just a couple weeks later. Katie was also on the speech team, by the way. So it was like a Friday night. I remember I was sitting in the kitchen, probably doing homework or something. And Katie, don't laugh. And Katie calls, and she was like, I remember my mom answered the phone, and she was telling my mom, she's like, my mom and I will be there to pick Sarah up at like 6 on Saturday morning. And my mom looks at me and she's like, what for? Why are you picking her up? Like, for the speech tournament on Saturday. My mom looks at me and she was like, I didn't know there was a speech tournament on Saturday. And I just kind of looked down at my work and I'm like, yeah, I didn't tell you about it because I don't really want to go. So I didn't go to that tournament. My mom kept me home because she didn't know anything about it. I think we had other plans. But that left Sandra hanging. I mean, she was my partner and she didn't have a partner to rehearse with and to perform with. So she gets to the tournament. I don't know really what happened because I wasn't there. But on Monday, we get back to school. And Sandra walks up to my locker, and I swear, I've never seen a more evil glare in my life. I mean, she was at least 2 inches taller than I was, and I was just like, yeah, and I was like, oh my gosh, she's so mad at me. And she just, I mean, she glares at me, and she was just like, you can't drop without telling somebody. I mean, she had the head wave and everything. I mean, it was bad.
She wanted to fight you.
Okay, and so I don't really remember what I said to her. But I remember that was the last day she ever talked to me.
Oh,
And I mean, like, ever. So from that day on, she never talked to me. I remember in 8th grade, she was with her popular friends in our homeroom. And they were sitting in the back of the classroom, and I was up toward the front. And I remember one of them pushed the desks forward. And, like, the whole row moved forward and hit me in the back. And it didn't hurt, but I remember like everybody just laughing at me in the back. I was just like, I don't get it.
Really do.
and like through high school, she never talked to me. She never looked at me. None of her friends were my friends, and I was okay with that. I mean, even the 6 years that I worked for Walmart, she lived in the same town with me. I would see her, and I would still try to avoid her.
Oh, you were one of those people?
I was one of those people. I didn't want to face the confrontation if there ever was. Like, there might not have ever been one. Like, 20 years later, there might not have even been one, but I didn't want to face it.
After this lesson, can we make you text her and apologize
No.
for not showing up?
I tried apologizing multiple times with her.
Still?
Yes.
She's a grown
How old
I
is
said,
she?
no, she's my age.
How old is
She's
you?
still-
How old am I? I'm
You don't ask
36.
them.
I was gonna say 25.
I'm 36. But no, like
Hey, you-
5 years ago, I messaged her on Facebook. And I had listened to a sermon. It was about forgiving people and getting rid of the guilt that you feel. And I remember I messaged her and I told her, I was like, you know, I was in 6th grade. We were young. I did something stupid and it was horrible to you and I'm sorry. And I know she read it. I know she looked at the
Ooh,
message.
she left you on red.
But she never responded.
That petty?
So I let it go. I'm like, I mean,
I mean,
I'm
it's better
seriously
than like
over
just
it.
saying K.
All right.
Like a lowercase.
But when all of that happened with Sandra and my friendships with Katie and Kim were kind of falling apart, Rebecca was still there. So like Rebecca and I kind of became best friends at this time. And Rebecca and I, we had our moments. Like she had her own best friend and I just kind of became the third wheel. And it was really, really, really awkward. But I can remember by the time we were in high school, we were still pretty good friends. We were riding the bus together. She was learning to drive and then like we would ride together to school and stuff. So my 16th birthday rolls around, and this is the year that Titanic, the movie, came out. Yes, I'm dating myself again. But Titanic comes out, so we decide for my birthday, during our slumber party, we're going to go down to our little theater and see it. So we go down. The movie's over. My dad says, once the movie's over, call me and I'll come pick you guys up. This is before cell phones, before DSL internet. So we only had like dial-up internet. So I used the little phone there at the theater and I call home and the line is busy. And I call again and the line is busy. I swear we're stranded down there for maybe a half hour, I don't know. My brother's on the internet, I can't get through, and we're like, theater's closing, we're like, what do we do? So a few of my friends walked down like a block and a half, finally got through, my dad came and got us, it was no big deal, we went on with our night. A couple weeks later, Rebecca's mom decides that this whole situation was just horrible, it should never have happened, and Rebecca's like no longer my friend. We were friends at school, but outside of school we never hung out. By our senior year, if we had classes together, it was all good, we would talk, but like on weekends, I would stay at home, I would be doing homework, I'd be hanging out with my mom. And she's still living next door, and I'm outside, I remember one night I'm out there walking my dog, and she zooms by and zips into her driveway, and I'm standing there with my dog, and they all get out of her car, there's like 5 of them, and they're running circles around the car, laughing and giggling, and I'm just like, here I am. I'm just standing here by myself. Yeah. And they get back in the car and they run, drive off away. And that year for her birthday, she had a party. And she came into school the day after her party and starts showing me the pictures of the party that I wasn't invited to.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
I hate fake people.
So can we all agree? Friendships are pretty rough, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
They can be really,
So
really
rough.
Okay, don't give me that. Boys are
different
different than girls.
You
Get over
basically
it.
just described everything in our friendship.
Okay, yeah, friendships are tough.
Oh, jeez.
So what?
Not our
Finally
friendship,
got
but
it
like
to
the
the
friends
core.
around us.
What's that?
I said I just look. A lot of the people I'm friends with now.
I was the only one who didn't raise their hand.
Was friends with them before.
I don't have any best
We haven't
friends.
talked.
me rush
And we became friends again. They were Linda, Gabe,
Eva,
Gabe,
yeah,
Gabe,
and Jessica,
Gabe,
yeah.
I was like,
But
Sarah, my arms are giving out.
Keep going, I'm almost done. Okay, so the cool thing though about friendships, alright. So I'm living in Ohio. I'm five years up,
Story.
3 years out of college. No, I'm 3 years out of college. And what? The once upon a time, sorry.
forgot.
So
So this is like 8 years later.
This is like,
Okay, so we gotta do this.
this is like,
7 years later.
so I graduated college in 2005. I graduated high school in 2000. Okay, quit making me feel old. So in like 2008, I'm living in Ohio working with the church, and out of nowhere, do you guys know what MySpace is?
Yeah.
Yes.
Alright, so Rebecca messages me on MySpace, and she's like, sorry, you might remember me, we used to be neighbors, and I'm just like, we used to be neighbors, I might remember you, and so like she's trying to catch up and make, good on things, and we've never talked about like what happened in high school. I don't know if I really want to, because why open that can of worms 20 years later,
Wait,
but
I'm the person.
why did her mom
I can't know
hate you guys
So-
being straight? Or her mom?
her mom thought it was bad because, it was late, it was almost midnight,
Pedophiles.
it was, well,
Well, you were in Girl Scouts.
we were in a
Girl
very
Scouts,
small
you know.
town. I don't know that there was really any danger, but
Moms.
her mom perceived some danger, and it just became an issue. Her mom has still never talked to us, never makes eye contact with us.
Wow.
We're awkward.
That's why you gotta be walk down the
So
same aisle.
some people can be very, very petty. The difficult thing with friendships is facing those struggles and facing those tough issues, working through them, and keeping the relationship whole. I'm okay with the brokenness of the relationships I had because I'm a completely different person now, and I wouldn't be the person I am now without those issues and without those situations. So some of the tough situations you can grow through. Some of them might, hopefully they won't break you, hopefully they'll just grow you, but so I want to share some scriptures with you guys because we're a church and that's what we do. But, okay, so on the issue of friendships, all right, Jesus says in John 15:12-15, he says, my command is this, love each other as I have loved you. Greater love has no one than this, than to lay down one's life for one's friends. You are my friends if you do what I command. I no longer call you servants because the servant does not know his master's business. Instead, I have called you friends, for everything that I learned from my Father I have made known to you. And you guys know the golden rule, right?
Maybe.
Do you know the golden rule?
Just throw it out there.
Okay, so this is, Jesus made up the golden rule, and these are his words. He
Treat
says,
others as you want to be treated.
yes, and as you wish that others
I know
would do
that.
to you,
I know
do so to them. And then in Romans chapter 12, verse 10, Paul writes, love one another with brotherly affection. outdo one another in showing honor. So let's think about what this looks like. To love other people with brotherly affection.
That's not
Maybe not like with
something.
your brother because you fight with your brother a lot.
No, he starts at IMD.
That's hard. But does loving somebody like a brother, does that mean laughing at them if they fall and get hurt?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, you trip them. and
Okay,
laugh at them.
seriously, let's take, okay, so seriously, does it mean laughing at somebody's expense? Does it mean if they trip and like they're seriously hurt, does that mean
You take care
pointing
You
at
check
one?
I will
She
laugh
laughs
first
She
and
laughs
then
if you
help
trip
them.
and fall.
Sometimes,
She
okay, we can all admit sometimes it's funny.
No,
I fell earlier, everybody.
I would laugh at
But
them.
you can help me up.
I helped you up.
And at least she helped you out.
Everybody help me out. Everybody help me out.
At least she
No,
helped
that
you
was
out.
mean. She laughed. You laughed. She laughed.
I laugh at everything.
Okay.
That's my
So-
favorite song.
Is
No, that's
friendship,
him.
is friendship hanging out with one friend while trying to make the other friend jealous?
No.
No, it shouldn't be.
Is friendship,
Guys don't do that.
is friendship intentionally leaving somebody out
No.
when they should easily be included?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to show you guys a quick video clip. I think you guys have seen what it is already.
I'm so excited to watch.
Dumpling.
Dumplings and
So long
stuff.
video.
And this was such a good
It's not a long video.
Oh, I remember that. Isn't that what
Dumpling yet.
So why don't we just listen to it?
so much.
Why don't we just watch it?
I watched this movie like 3 times. I had no life.
Me
Watched
too.
it like 4 or
We
5.
know.
Mr. Right, I love you so
Seen Bird
much.
Box like 6.
Alright. So, shh. Okay.
How would you define loyalty?
Loyalty. Loyalty means never giving up on someone, even through doubts and differences. It's a noun with action, fueled by shared experiences which are memorable, meaningful, and irreplaceable. But loyalty isn't blind love. It shouldn't be taken for granted. Loyalty means telling someone when they're wrong, when no one else will. And loyalty means apologizing when you're wrong because of the trust you've built over time. Loyalty is true friendship. Thank you, Miss Dixon.
Their friendship was passionate.
Alright.
She's a bird box.
I felt
Because-
myself.
Yeah, Dumplings and Bird Box. They're
She
solid.
is.
Okay.
She does.
Yeah.
So we can all agree with her definition, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Loyalty is a true sign of friendship.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's what we're going to do now. We're going to move into a time of quiet and a time of prayer. Alright, I've got stations set up around the sanctuary. I've got one in the classroom right across the way. At each station, you will find a yellow card with instructions on what you should do at that station. On some stations, it probably won't take you that long. Some stations, you might want to stay longer. Some stations will tell you you can stay as long as you want. But I want you guys to focus on what it means. One, on what we've talked about here tonight, what friendship is. There's a couple stations that focus on praying for your friends. I want you to do all of them. I want you to spend time at every station. If there is 2 people at that station, try to find another station to go to. Okay, I don't want it being too
How many
crowded.
stations?
There are 9 stations altogether. Okay, so there's one, like I said, right across the hall, and then 8 set up around the sanctuary. So if you have a question, I'll be around. You can raise your hand and I'll come to you, but I don't want a lot of distractions. I want everybody to be able to focus as much as they can. Okay? So let's say a quick prayer before we go into our stations.